Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Boss Babes Lifestyle Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Baldi, and summer is almost upon us. I hope your spring has been fabulous so far. Please feel free to subscribe to my podcast on iTunes and Spotify. Of course, it's free. Lots of awesome episodes to listen to. And if you guys want, I know so many of you guys listen to this podcast weekly, whether it's for advice or to hear some of the awesome interviews. And I know you guys like to keep updated on both Ryan and I's wedding planning. Leave me a fantastic review on the app because guess what? It allows me to drop more content for you all. We are back at it again. We have my friend today, Red Sox baseball wifey, entrepreneur, and she is a doctor of physical therapy. We have Dr. Chelsea Barnes with us. Chelsea, how are you, my lady? It's been about a year now. I know we kind of keep in touch through social media and texting here and there, but we haven't had you on this podcast since like last summer, I believe.
Yeah, and I'm excited to be back because a lot has changed since then, so there's a lot to catch up on.
I know. I'm so excited to kind of discuss with you the All-Star game. We know that Matt was a part of that. And you talked about wanting to switch over from being in person working with clients and kind of being like having to work steadily in one spot. Now you are working remotely. I think it's going to give some women that encouragement to, hey, you know what? I can become an entrepreneur. I can start my own business, take my skills and just make it work, especially while you're young and you want to travel more. So again, as we just mentioned, Chelsea was on the show over a year ago. She was a fantastic guest, so I needed to have her back on here. A year ago, we discussed what it was like becoming a doctor of physical therapy, how she met her hubby, Red Sox closer, Matt Barnes. Hint, hint. I think if I remember correctly, it involved some shots at a bar in Connecticut. And she gave us some wedding details and she even talked about her honeymoon. But in this episode, Chelsea will fill you in on all of the most recent details of what they have been up to and, of course, what she's been doing now. I want to break the ice a little bit. If you could go back in time to any time period, what would it be and why? Whether it's the 50s, the 60s, the dinosaur period.
That's such a good question, and I didn't think about it like that. I'm thinking like when you first said if I can go back in time, I'm thinking of my own life. And so if I could go back to any time that I've been alive for, and it gets me thinking about you because you just got engaged and you're planning your wedding, I really have to say like our wedding weekend, if I could relive that weekend every weekend, it would be the best thing ever. And it's so like cliche, like, oh my God, wedding weekend was the best weekend ever, best day of your life. But it really was, it was a whole weekend of events, not just one day. It was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all of our family, all of our friends, like people flew in from, one friend flew from Australia. Like we just had everyone we loved in one room and one location. And it just like, it was the best weekend. So we talk about it all the time. We still watch our wedding video like it's been 3.5 years now, but we watch our wedding video like a few times a year. And we're just like, wow, this was the best ever. And now, especially with COVID, having, the past year, a lot of my friends got engaged, in 2020 or were planning a wedding in 2020. And it's like, oh, we got married just before that, 2019, where there was no COVID existed yet. And we just had so much fun. We had ice luges. I don't think they'll be allowed at weddings ever again. But it really was just the best weekend ever.
I love that you mentioned the wedding because for me, and as you spoke about, I'm in the process of planning that wedding. At times it can be a little bit stressful, especially with having your future husband play a sport where they're on the road fairly often. So what was that whole experience like having to plan a wedding? Now that we're actually on that topic,
Yeah.
did you do a lot of it with your mom and your future mom-in-law? Because
Yeah.
obviously he was on the road. I'm kind of dealing with the same thing. And then I'm in 2 different states because my mom is in Mass. His parents are in North Carolina. It's wild, Chelsea. Give me the
Yeah.
tips, please.
It definitely is. And thankfully, my mom and mother-in-law are amazing and they help me with so much stuff. I also had a wedding planner, which naturally helped me with a lot. She was based in Florida. And so we got married in Florida, which did make it a little bit more difficult than if our wedding was locally. But we essentially pre-planned as much as we could for one long weekend. And right before this season started, right before the season started, and Matt was actually heading down there for spring training, we flew down with our parents and we just went through all the details. We did the tasting. We picked out like flower stuff. We've got our wedding bands. We tried to do as much as we could that weekend with Matt being there. And then he was more of a, like, just show me what you like and I'll give you feedback kind of guy.
That's perfect. Well, thank you for sharing those details with me. And on top of planning a wedding and being all over the place, you guys are currently remodeling your kitchen.
Yes.
And I've been following your social media posts. I think it's amazing. So they're using a lot of white accents. It's very open. I actually recently commented, I loved all that organization. I don't know who did that, if that's you, but I was just like, this is flawless. I'm big into organization. I'll give you guys some little backstory, and for you too, Chelsea. If Ryan leaves something on the counter for too long, whether it's like his keys or like the shoes are in the same spot and not where they're supposed to be, or if he leaves out like a piece of mail too long, like on like a random counter, I'm like, babe, do you need this? Get rid of it, put it back in its spot. I'm like, when we have kids, I am going to be on their booties about, you play with the toy, you wear your shoes, put them back in the same spot, because one, it keeps things clean and organized, and two, you know where it is after. So whose idea was it to be that organized? You, Matt, or did somebody help you guys?
So all three. So yes, I love when everything has a home. And if everything has a home, then it's really functional and you know where everything is and you know if you're low on a certain item instead of having things just all over the place. So when we redid the kitchen, that obviously was the best time. Everything was out of the kitchen. It was in like a room for storage. And when we were planning, putting everything away, that is when I really wanted to get this like dream Pinterest looking walk-in pantry. And so we always had a walk-in pantry, but it wasn't the most functional. There were some areas that were like catch-all items of just miscellaneous stuff. So I reached out to a woman who I have mutual friends with, named Olga, and she is actually based in Florida, but ironically enough was in New Jersey. And so then it was kind of close to Connecticut. And we set up a day where she did a lot of pre-planning with photos. She helped me actually with the design process. And then she came for one full day, and her and I, together, mostly her, I definitely can't take any credit. She would just say, get me all your serving bowls. And I was like, be right back. And so she facilitated. She got everything pretty much from the Container Store, which if you've ever been into it, if you're organized girl like me, it is a dream. And so now the pantry is just awesome. And it's not even just the pantry, even the kitchen, all the pull-out drawers have labels and spices are labels and everything has a home. And it's so satisfying. Matt loves it. I don't think Matt would ever do the extra step of like organizing it, but he definitely appreciates it. And we'll see. We can definitely, I think, keep it this way with just the two of us, but eventually down the road when we do have kids, I think it'll be another story, but hopefully we can grow into it and that it'll still remain pretty Pinterest worthy looking.
Well, yes, the kitchen is gorgeous. And if you guys are interested in seeing what Chelsea is up to, you can totally feel free to follow her social media. She has her personal one and also her Dr. Chelsea Barnes one. We can shout those out a little bit later on in the show. How are your freaking puppies? So you guys know that I'm a huge dog lover. Both Ryan and I have a puppy named Decker, ironically enough, named after Jesse Decker and Eric Decker, the former football player. But Chelsea, I believe, has one or two dogs. They, ironically enough, look almost like Decker, and I hope that we can do a play date sometime. But I love seeing her freaking videos and her photos of her dog. So cute. They look a little bit more calm than our doggy boy Decker. So how are your puppies?
So they're good. We do have two. So Callie is our dog. Matt and we got her as a puppy. She's going to be 3 in August. So we got her, when she was, I guess, 8 weeks old. And then Rocky is my family dog who lives with us. And he's like a German Shepherd rescue mix. And so he's older, about like 9 or 10, maybe. We actually don't really know. Callie is, like I said, going to be 3. And she is a girl, so I think girl labs might be a little bit more calm than boy labs. And I just am using that comparison because we hang out with her actual brother, like her litter mate's brother, a girl and a guy, and the boy's got a lot of energy. So Callie is definitely a little bit more well-mannered, but she's so crazy as heck. She jumps on my face every morning at 6 a.m. She loves to play. She loves to run. She loves water in all forms, whether it's dunking her head in her water bowl or playing in a kiddie pool or trying to swim at my in-laws. She is like such a lab, but she's the best. I mean, we love her so much. I can't imagine what it's like to, Matt and I always say, like, whenever we have a kid, what's it like to have, I can't even imagine what it's like to have a kid and how much you love your kid. When we love our dog this much, it's like, oh God, we're doomed when we have kids. It's like there's not that much love to exist.
So freaking cute. But yes, I love following you guys, putting up posts of your puppy. Again, being a huge dog lover, I love seeing like how much you guys do love your dog and how much you share with the social media world. You even just like giving like a simple treat or taking your dog for a walk. I think it's fabulous. Thank you for sharing all those insights with us on what you guys have been up to aside from just baseball season. We will switch on over to the 2021 Red Sox season because, of course, I want to touch upon the All-Star game. I know that both you and Matt attended it. So how was the 2021 season for you? I know Chelsea and I actually bumped into each other. I was at Fenway, I forget when, probably back in like September or October, because obviously it was at the end of Ryan's baseball season. But we were at Fenway Park, bumped into each other. It was awesome to meet you in person. What were some of your top memories from the 2021 season? I know you didn't get to spend as much time going to games as you would have liked to because you were still working, I believe, in Connecticut. But I'm sure you got to do a lot of traveling nonetheless.
Yeah. So the season was awesome. Matt had an amazing first half. Right out of the gate, he just crushed it first half of the season. He obviously was nominated to be a MLB All-Star, which is a first, and it was such a special experience. It was so great. And we were really fortunate where our family was able to come with us. You know, it was our parents, it was my brother-in-law and his girlfriend, and we all flew out to Denver. It was a whirlwind of a weekend, which some other wives had given me the heads up, like, just so you know, you're only there for like 48 hours, and it is like every minute is scheduled, but it was so fun. So we basically got there after a game. I think they played on Sunday or whatever day it was, and then we flew that afternoon from Boston to Denver. And we landed, and I think we just pretty much went to bed that evening, but got in pretty late. And then the next morning, it was like they had the home run derby. It was, you know, Matt had all these events. There's just a ton going on with autograph rooms and merchandise and interviews and all this stuff. And girl-wise, they are amazing. They take care of all the wives, got the hair and makeup done, which was awesome. I got to meet a lot of other wives from other teams that I've never met before. And then the red carpet event was really special. Just really nice, the whole event. Our family got to come with us again, and it was just like awesome, so fun. And then the game was amazing. Matt obviously pitched. The American League team, which Matt was playing for, won, so that was even more special. It's definitely strange to be like rooting for a team that's comprised of people from all over on other teams that you don't know. It was definitely really cool. It makes you realize how small the baseball world really is, because everyone's just there for the same reason, supporting their guys and their family and just hoping to have a good time. And if you win, then it's even that much better.
It looked like it was a lot of fun. I want to talk about some of the cute posts that you put up actually from the All-Star game. Again, obviously this was back last year. And as Chelsea mentioned, it was in Colorado in 2021. I actually had a layover flight while going to a Vegas baseball series to see Ryan play. And it happened to be the same week as the All-Star game. Ironically enough, I was in Colorado for that layover. And I remember seeing all the promo stuff at the airport. So that was kind of cool. I remember actually texting Ryan and I was like, babe, I think I should just like skip your series and like just stay in Colorado and get a hotel room and like try to like sneak into the All-Star game. He was like, no, you got to come see me play. So I thought that was kind of fun to be able to see all the promo stuff. But as Chelsea mentioned, her hubby, Matt Barnes, was named a 2021 All-Star after he put together an outstanding first half of the Red Sox season. According to the coldwire.com, Matt's first few months of 2021 were so impressive that the Sox inked him an extension in July 11th, so congratulations. They signed Mr. Matt Barnes to a 2-year extension with a club option for 2024. You kind of already talked about your experience at the All-Star game. You did mention it was your first time attending. I want to talk about some of your cute outfits. So if you go look at Chelsea's personal Instagram, you will see a really fun, it's like one of those 360 cams where you kind of stand there, you do some like quick movement, but it's like her and Matt's in this nice, I think, suit. I kind of forget what he was wearing, but her outfit was very memorable to me. You see her wedding band, you see her engagement ring. She's in a really cute like leopard dress. She kind of like lifts her leg up. How did you go about choosing your outfits for the red carpet and the game day? You mentioned it was just like a quick 48 hours. So
Yeah.
how did you prep for the All-Star game?
So the crazy thing about it was, I want to say the game was on, I'm not sure, maybe like July 10th or 11th. They didn't even announce the roster or if whoever was on the team until like July, I think it was 4th of July or July 3rd. And so no idea that Matt's going to be an all-star, just kind of like looking forward to the all-star break. Honestly, it's like, oh, a few days, he can come home. Like we were planning on maybe like going down to the Jersey Shore with our family, just staying really low key. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, you're an MLB All-Star, which means we are not going to the tour. We are going to Colorado very fast. And I need an outfit for a red carpet event. Like, so I think I literally had like 5 days to plan. And then I had to go from Connecticut to Boston to make sure I was there. And then I flew obviously out with Matt and our family. So yeah, huge whirlwind of events. I just basically was like, I'm going to the mall until I find something that I love. And so I went to Westchester Mall and I went into all the department stores, Nordstrom, Bloomingdale's, and I just tried on a million dresses until I found one. A lot of time I liked this one, and the woman was like, oh, you can order it and I'll have it by, there in like 3 to 5 days. And I'm like, nope, that's not going to work. I need to leave with a dress here today. And so luckily I found something that I liked and it was super comfortable and of course cute. And yeah, just a huge whirlwind. And then that on the red carpet, the video that you're talking about. So yeah, it's one of those 360 cameras that goes around you. And I remember it was so crazy because there's so many people there and everyone's yelling and clapping and cheering and stuff. And of course, I'm not used to that. No one yells and claps and cheers for me. So I'm like starstruck, very like out of my element. And then they kind of like shoo us over there and they're like, we're going to take a picture of you guys, or not a picture, a video, like do something crazy. And I'm like, do something crazy. And he's like, all right, we're counting down. Like 5, 4. And I'm like tip me. Like I didn't even know what to say. And Matt just like grabs, my waist and dips me back. And I'm just praying to God, please do not drop me on my ass. Like that would be the worst thing in the world. And so I just held on to him for dear life and the camera's spinning around and then it came out really awesome. But yeah, just no planning for anything, such a whirlwind of events, but looking back, it was awesome.
Well, thank you for sharing all that. Yeah, I was kind of always interested in how people get selected for the All-Star game. And then do you have like a period of time where you have time to get a dress, time to get your hair and makeup done? Like, can you call out of work? It sounds like it's a very fast 48 hours. And which kind of leads into my next question of, you obviously probably don't have that much downtime. You guys are running around, doing the press, taking the photos, signing the autographs, going to the game. You probably don't have any time to even explore Colorado. I'm assuming you've been there a couple times if he's played against the Rockies in the past, which I'm sure he has. If at all, did you guys have any free time? And if so, what were you able to do?
Yeah, so Matt's agent actually flew out as well, and he's awesome, and we always have a great time with him. And so thank God for him because he helped us do all the last minute details of booking reservations, making sure we had rooms, for our family and for us, and a few other friends came, of course. And so my best friend, who was my maid of honor, lives in Denver. And so out of any All-Star game option for Matt to go to, I was super pumped about going to Denver because I've been a handful. I've probably been maybe 5 or so times, and Matt's been as well. But I love Denver. I love the city, and I know that she would be so excited if I was going out there. So we did have one night where we went out to a really nice dinner. It was the night of the home run derby. And so only silver lining of, Matt being a pitcher is that he didn't have to bat naturally in the home run derby. So he wasn't really that exhausted or too tired from participating. He kind of just sat on the sidelines with us and watched. So we had a really nice dinner that night. There was about 15 of us. It was family, friends, Matt's agent, and we got to just enjoy being there together and celebrate Matt's accomplishment. And then the next morning was the game. So it was like out to dinner till 11 p.m., go to bed on that 2-hour time difference. So trying to adjust to that time change. And then I think I had to get up at 6:30 for hair and makeup, which not complaining because it was awesome and really fun. And then Matt had to leave by like 8 a.m. and do interview media like things. And then we all had to be ready by 9. Red carpet walks were at 10, like finished at 11. BP starts at 1. Like it was very, 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 every minute was structured. And so we just kind of just went with the flow and I went where people told me to go.
You guys are now listening to Brittany Baldi. I'm your host. And joining me today is my friend, Mrs. Chelsea Barnes. She is a doctor of physical therapy. Stay with us because, yes, we are talking a little bit about the 2021 baseball season. We're going to be wrapping that up shortly because a big portion of this show, I want her to showcase what she is up to. In our first podcast episode last summer, Chelsea was telling us how grueling it was to go to school to become a physical therapist, the fact that she loves her career. She was actually working in an office, I believe, in Connecticut for a number of years. And she decided to, rightfully so, switch to remote because she wants to travel with her husband a little bit more, which is awesome. And having the freedom and the ability to do so is a blessing. And I sit here and I say that because I'm able to do the same with my podcast. Again, I'm very grateful for my guests on here, like Chelsea, and for my listeners. So before we wrap up the baseball talk, I just kind of wanted to ask Chelsea about some of the charity events that you and the wives and girlfriends might have been involved in last year with the Red Sox. And then I kind of wanted to ask you about having Mrs. Erin Bradley back. I had no idea. Like, I don't keep up that much with like who's getting traded and who's going where. But I recently looked at like the Red Sox roster, and I was like, what the heck? Like, Jackie Bradley Jr. is back with the Red Sox. That's awesome. So first question, let's talk about those charity events last year, if you were involved in any of them. And then I want to ask kind of what it's like having Mrs. Erin Bradley back with the Red Sox this year.
Yeah, so charity events, Red Sox are along with all the other MLB organizations, obviously the only one I'm familiar with is the Red Sox, but they are a top tier organization when it comes to fundraisers, foundations, etc. So the last 2 years have been not ideal for fundraising aspects because of COVID. So they've all been pretty much virtual. Still definitely made it work. So every year, a few fundraisers that the wives all do is one is a player's favorite thing basket. And so each wife or significant other will create a basket with miscellaneous items. And so typically I put Matt's favorite things in his basket. And he usually donates an autographed something like cleats or a hat. And then, I'll put in like maybe headphones or whatever, snacks, games, etc. And so like a Yeti mug, whatever his favorite things are, I always put coffee in there. He's a big Starbucks guy. And then every wife does that and they get auctioned off for charity. And we've raised a lot of money on that. It's crazy. I mean, people bid on those items. And of course they're getting the autographed memorabilia and other miscellaneous things. Huge fundraiser. And it's a different charity every year. And that's dependent on the wife that's kind of hosting it that year. They pick a charity of their choice. The other fundraiser that we always do is Socks for Socks. Every year, something that I personally always participate in is the Run to Home Base run, and it is to benefit the Home Base Foundation for veterans and other war service participants, I guess. So it's not just veterans, but it's veterans and their families and anyone who's been affected by any military dedication. So the run is either you could do a 5K or a 9K. I'm a big runner. I love exercise. And it's really special because you land on like the finish line is home plate pretty much. And so you go all the way around Boston, Back Bay, back around, and then you land on home plate. And really amazing fundraiser to support that audience. And there's always thousands of people that do it. And the veterans that get up there and speak about how beneficial that program is for them is really special. So that's something I look forward to every year.
That sounds really special. And thank you for sharing that. Again, you guys that are listening, my BosBabes fanatics, you know that a big part of this podcast is talking about charity and how our special guests give back. I'm actually looking forward to potentially doing some stuff this upcoming baseball season, helping work alongside some other wives and girlfriends. And more importantly, I don't know, Chelsea, if you're familiar with it, Prom Series is actually a nonprofit run by Mrs. Tori Murphy. Her husband, Daniel, was in the MLB for over a decade. I mean, you guys recently heard on a most recent podcast of mine, I had Mrs. Tori Murphy on. She actually works alongside foster teen girls in the Florida area, where a couple times a year they'll run events where they either collect back to school clothing. I was lucky enough to be a part of that last season when, at the time, now fiance, but Ryan was my boyfriend. He was with the Seattle Mariners organization, and we were able to actually collect outfits for girls and send them to them for back to school. And they also collect prom dresses for girls, foster girls, and give them to them. So if you are ever interested in getting involved with prom series, Chelsea, I'm sure.
Yeah, we did it. I totally slipped my mind because it was like, again, virtual. And so instead of meeting the girls or seeing anything, it was, Tori and her coworkers or whoever else was helping out with the fundraiser just kind of emailed us a list, and you get assigned, a girl, and you get her sizes and you get to shop for them. And it was different instead of doing prom dresses because with COVID, there was no prom. So I think we did a back to school outfit this year.
Yes, you're correct. You're correct.
And it's awesome. It's so nice. And you know what? Who doesn't love shopping? And it's so much better when you can just help this teen girl feel good and feel confident and like pick out something really cute and kind of style them in any way you want. And so it was really nice. We got a little blurb about the girls, whether they like, maybe they like baseball, maybe they like dance, or they like pink. And so you can kind of get a little tidbit about them with their sizes and try to pick out something really special with your little twist on it. And so, really, really amazing fundraiser and such a big benefit.
Yes, I love that you know about it. That's fabulous. Yeah. Woo! Prom Series, guys, please go look at them on Instagram. It's just at Prom Series. And if you want to help give back in any way, shape, or form, please go ahead and check them out as well. Mrs. Erin Bradley, again, as I spoke about a few minutes ago, I had no idea Jackie Bradley Jr. was back at the Red Sox. Are you guys friends? Do you guys do charity events together? How is it having Jackie Bradley back with the Red Sox? He's a staple for the team, so that's amazing.
Yeah, Jackie and Erin are amazing. Matt has played with Jackie since probably with Jackie the longest out of everyone, maybe him and Bogey for the longest amount of time. So he played with Jackie back in, minor league days, AA, probably even single A. And they're really good friends. And so Matt is so happy to have him back. And also he loves the confidence level of knowing that Jackie's in that outfield when he's pitching. So I think it's a win-win. Erin is also a good friend of mine, and I've known her for years. So we're so happy to have them back in Boston. I think they're happy to be there. It's definitely their home, and feels probably so nice and a comfort level of being back. It's crazy when I saw Erin this spring training, and I haven't seen them in a little bit, in a little while because of COVID, and they've been with another organization, but their daughter, Emerson, is just like the sweetest girl ever. And she's not like a baby anymore. I met her when she was a baby, and now she's talking, walking. I think she's in kindergarten, and she's so big and so smart. And I got to meet their son, Jax, who is the cutest baby boy ever. And they are going to be welcoming another one in June. So they are just doing really great.
Very exciting, and best of luck to you guys this season. Thank you so much for sharing so much insight to the 2021 Red Sox season, the All-Star game, everything in between. I loved hearing about you remodeling your kitchen and the puppies. Let's switch on over. So you are known as Dr. Chelsea Barnes. I want to hit upon your career. This podcast is all about you and what you are currently up to. So as we've mentioned a number of times on this podcast already and in episode 1, Chelsea is a doctor of physical therapy. Her Instagram is at Dr. So Dr. Chelsea Barnes PT. And I love her slogan, train smarter, not harder. The last time we spoke, you worked in an office, and we discussed that although you enjoyed working alongside your clients and being in that office, you kind of just wanted to go remote. That way you can travel more. So what is it like transitioning from working in an office all the time to being remote? And before you even get into that, can you kind of give people an insider on what exactly you do as a physical therapist? Again, I know you talked about it on the first episode, but that was over a year ago. Talk about that mobility, talk about helping others, and then we'll discuss going from in-office to remote.
Yeah. So crazy to think of where I was last year. I was on this podcast in the middle of COVID saying my dream is to go fully remote so that I can travel with my husband, but still have my career. And as a physical therapist, naturally, that's not something I thought I'd ever be able to do, since a lot of my work is in person. All my work was in person, and I was doing a lot of manual therapy and dry needling and hands-on work. So then silver lining of COVID was that there was a time period where my office in Connecticut, I worked at an outpatient corporate physical therapy company. It did shut down temporarily for a few weeks. And during that time, I wanted to still maintain my relationship with my patients, because even though we were closed didn't mean that they didn't have pain or weren't rehabbing an injury. I worked a lot of my clients at that time were athletes, like high school athletes. And so the other caveat was that there was no sports. Sports were also on hold. And this is in like the spring of 2020. So just because they weren't having, like I said, they didn't have baseball practice or they couldn't come to physical therapy didn't mean that they still didn't have shoulder pain and they didn't just, have a surgery. So I started doing Zoom calls with them, like telehealth calls, and definitely a learning curve because I'm used to just using my hands and giving them, feedback by touching their shoulders or turning their hips or whatever. So definitely have to use my words, but it was really helpful to see what their setup was like at home. So for example, if they were doing a band resisted exercise and their arm was out to the side too far, I'd be like, wait a minute, that's how you've been doing that exercise? No. Why don't you move it in closer, or let's grab a towel and put it on your waist so we can get better feedback. And so it really helped me give them a better home program because I was watching them doing it at home instead of just giving them a handout in the clinic and then not really seeing what their carryover was like. Still during 2020 was a few of my friends either had injuries or my one best friend, who actually today is her son's first birthday. So this was when she was like 6 months pregnant, way back when. She had a lot of back pain and it's her first pregnancy and she wasn't comfortable, didn't really want to see her doctor at that time. It was, like I said, height of COVID. So she and I would hop on Zoom calls and I'd give her a lot of exercises. I would demonstrate, she would do it. I'd be able to give her feedback and I'm like, put your hand here. Do you feel this? And so it became really beneficial because I was doing a lot more education than just manual work. And I really think that whether it was like my patients or friends, that they did really well with the activities because they were doing it themselves. And so then comes, friends of friends or extended family reaches out to me because they have an issue and they want to hop on a Zoom. And it's like, okay, well, I can't, first off, I just don't have as much time. I still have a full schedule to like be, working with a million people, but I also just want to make sure that legally and ethically it abides by my license. And so reach out to our lawyer and basically set up an LLC and a malpractice insurance, all this stuff. So I could kind of start like a side business. And it was just supposed to be a side business until it just started doing really well. And I love the aspect of one-on-one only. And sometimes in the clinic, I was seeing like 2 or 3 patients at a time, and I couldn't give someone my undivided attention. However, if I'm on a Zoom with someone, of course, it's just me and them, and I'm locked in 100%. So I started an Instagram page because I figured it was a good way that I could share exercise tips, tricks, all the things. And it was a really nice way if I filmed some of these videos, when people reached out to me and said, oh, I threw out my back, or, oh, my hamstrings are tight, I would be able to just kind of send them this Instagram link. And I'm like, check this out. Try it, see how you feel. Of course, everybody is different, so this might not be helpful for you, and you might have to be evaluated. But if it helps, great. If not, let me know in a few days, and we can hop on a call, and I can give you a more detailed evaluation. And so now, fast forward to now, I have had over 100 private clients. I have a back pain, like an online mobility course that is totally self-paced. I work privately with clients one-on-one, which is pretty much my main priority with that. I also have t-shirts that I've just launched. So yes, my whole logo is train smarter, not harder. And so you don't always have to be putting yourself in pain. Like, I'm not a fan of the no pain, no gain. I'm all about just exercise smarter and more efficiently, and you will get those strength gains, build endurance, build stamina, and move without pain. So I have t-shirts that I started doing just with clients that now I offer to whoever orders them on my website. And I just launched a monthly subscription. So what I'll be doing now is, after you've been evaluated by me, I will start offering a subscription, which is basically a package where you will get a custom home exercise program. I use like a private app to make everything custom for that client, depending on their goals and what they want to work on. And yeah, it's been amazing. I can do it from wherever. I've done it in Florida. I've done it in Boston at our apartment. I've done it on the road in New York. I have a few trips planned this summer, and I don't have to miss a beat with my clients because I can just schedule accordingly with them. And all I need is a room with a yoga mat. And if I have a resistance band, a foam block, and a wall, then I'm good to go.
See, I love hearing positive stories like this, and I'm sure my listeners enjoy it too, because it just lets you know that you kind of like manifest what you put out into the universe. I'm a big person into like meditate on what you want, or if you pray, pray on what you want and speak it into existence. That way it comes to reality. And I, again, for the longest time, wanted to have Chelsea on here, but I wanted to kind of like watch her company evolve before I had her on so she can talk about it fluently like she is now.
Yeah.
And it's so special to see that like a year ago, as she mentioned, these were just words. She had no idea if it was going to happen, if this was a thing. She was still, I think, at the time working
Yep.
in the office. And again, she loved it, but she was like, I really want to spend time with my husband. And like, I feel that wholeheartedly. So to be able to see her like helping people out still, using her degree and starting her own business essentially is a beautiful thing. So for my listeners out there, you have the idea to start your own sneaker brand, go ahead and do it. If you want to become a therapist or go back to school or become a teacher or whatever the heck your dreams happen to be, speak it into existence and don't think anything differently and just go for it. Which kind of leads into my next question. I know you dropped your t-shirt that uses your slogan. What is your website if people want to reach out to you?
Yeah.
And how do people get in contact with you?
Yeah. So again, thank you for that because you're right. Manifesting it. I talked about it last year and I was like, in a dream world, this is what it would look like. I would still have this, I would be able to work privately with people and do physical therapy and teach people how to move smarter and feel better. But I would be able to travel with my husband. And Matt has been playing, professional baseball now for over 11 years and he's not going to play forever. And so I don't want to wake up, I just turned 30. I had this I'm old moment, even though of course I'm not old, but I'm like, where do I want to be in 5 years? Do I want to, still be working full time at a corporate company that is really realistically, that's always going to be there for me. I have a doctorate, I have this degree, it exists and it's not going to go away. So I could kind of put, now that I've established my career and got to where I want to be and worked hard at it for a few years, I am in the position now where I could take some time off and just really support Matt while he's at more of the tail end in his career and just enjoy the opportunity to travel. Like there's so much, exciting stuff that I was missing out a lot of because I was too busy working full time. And the All-Star game was kind of like my cherry on top. It was like, my boss had been amazing the whole time. And I'm like, that I have to go to this game. I'm taking off for these 4 days. And it was just too hard to maintain both and be there to support him. Either my option was I just didn't see him for weeks or months at a time, or I had to take off work and kind of find coverage. And it worked for 3 years. And then to some extent I was like, okay, I need to put this on the back burner, maybe do part-time or per diem work, and then can always come back to this in a few years. But I'm just not I don't really like to sit still, and I'm so much a go-getter. And even when I am with Matt, he does spend a lot of time on the road, and my dream was never to necessarily travel with him all the time, but I did want to have the flexibility to go to Boston or go down to spring training. And so now kind of best of both worlds, where I do still spend a lot of time in Connecticut. I do have my own clients and I do have, my own thing. And then I will prioritize trips that I want to go on with him or whatever. And so it's really special because we really found a way to balance it. And now here I am with my Instagram page in the last year grew to like 35,000 followers. I've gotten so much feedback. I have met so many new people. I have clients right now in Switzerland, India, California, Texas, Wisconsin, Florida. Instagram is such a wild platform that it's really opened a lot of doors for me. And yeah, I'm really excited, and I want to keep growing and hopefully I can get it to even higher levels in a year from now. You can have me on your podcast, and 1 year later, hopefully I'm doing better stuff.
That's a beautiful story. And again, all about manifestation. And as you mentioned, I love having my guests on here multiple times. So in a year from now, you never know where Chelsea will be. I mean, she could be having, who knows, like her own sneaker brand or something like
Yeah.
we just talked about that helps with like posture support, or like sky is the limit when you're an entrepreneur and when you're creative. And as Chelsea mentioned, when you're kind of like you enjoy being on the go and being creative minded, like honestly, sky is the limit. So thank you for sharing that story. And I know you mentioned your Instagram. It's just at Dr. So Dr. Chelsea Barnes PT.
That's
How Yes, please shout out your website. Where can people get in touch with you? So somebody that's listening right now, they need help with that mobility. Do you want them to slide in your DMs? Do you want them to email you? How can somebody get in touch with you?
Yeah, so my website is www.drchelseabarnespt.com. So Dr. Chelsea Barnes and then PT. That's a great way to get in touch with me. I do offer a lot of free stuff. So I have a free mobility guide, basically a movement screen. So that is on my website for free. It just gives you some screens that you can do at home to see how your shoulder, your hips, your ankles, etc., are moving. It's a nice kind of baseline to see if there's any areas worth working on or giving some more attention to. And then, of course, the Instagram, if you just scroll through my posts, I have a lot of activities there for mobility, flexibility, stability, strengthening, all body parts. So yeah, I don't really limit myself to one specific niche in particular, which maybe I should, but I'm more of a general provider. So I treat neck, shoulder, hips, ankles. The only thing I stay away from is right after someone has surgery, or if they're really in an acute or post-op phase, I do recommend getting in-person PT, because naturally some hands-on treatment would be really beneficial. However, when someone has kind of either graduated with inpatient or outpatient PT and they're ready to just kind of build a strength program, move better, work on mobility, work on strength, whatever their goals might be, then it's a great time to work with me. I do a lot of recorded stuff. We do everything on Zoom. I go back and I do video analysis. So I watch people squat, lunge, lift, etc., and give them a lot of feedback so that they can really optimize their form. So that all kind of exists on my Instagram page and a lot of stuff on my website. Reach out, send me an email, send me a DM. I'm always happy to meet new people and hopefully offer some good advice.
And I will be one of those people to say that Chelsea is just as sweet, not only obviously here on this podcast, but on her social media. She gets back to you, I would say, pretty rapidly. I don't know how this woman responds so fast, because she's freaking so all over the place and busy with between like baseball and the puppies, the house, but she finds a way to answer you guys in a very friendly manner. So again, please feel free to check her out on her social media. I'm going to wrap up this podcast very shortly. She is busy. I think she has some clients later on today. And I think she mentioned she has a wedding at some point this weekend.
Yes.
She's all over the place. And thank you again for coming on. Before we wrap up, though, aside from baseball, do you have any other plans this summer? More weddings? Are you guys going on a special vacation, maybe during the All-Star break? Or maybe Matt will be with the All-Stars. Again, who knows? But do you guys have anything set in place? What are you potentially doing this off season? So many questions, Chelsea. What are you up to this summer?
Yeah, so that's why my company is called Be on the Move. B as in Barnes, but Be on the Move. I'm always on the move, and every time I hop on a call with my clients, they're always like, "What city are you in?" And I'm like, "You'll never know." I'm always somewhere. And yes, I do have a wedding this weekend. So tonight I'm going up to Rhode Island and going to spend some time with friends. The wedding is tomorrow. So it is definitely wedding season for us. And the downside is that Matt can unfortunately not attend most of these summer weddings, but I have pretty much every month I have either a bachelorette party, Nashville, Scottsdale, or a wedding. I have one in Jersey. I have one in Rhode Island, one in Connecticut, one in Miami, all over the place. But besides that, yeah, just being busy. All-Star preliminary plans are to, I think maybe I'll jinx it in a good way, go to the Jersey Shore again with our family. And then if it doesn't happen, because Matt's an All-Star, that would be amazing. If it does happen, then we always enjoy some downtime at the shore. It's kind of like our happy place there. Yeah, besides that, back and forth to Boston a lot. The one trip I do want to go on this year is the Red Sox are playing the Cubs. I have never been to Wrigley Field, and I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. So I think that's like 4th of July weekend or the weekend right before. And so planning on going with our parents and some friends and just enjoying Chicago. It's one of the stadiums that's on my list that I need to get to, and they have not yet played. Matt has never played at Wrigley Field, ironically enough, because they were supposed to play during COVID. Then they didn't, because the season got delayed, and then they didn't play them last year because the National League, etc. So now they finally play them this year, and I'm going to be there, even though I had to cancel it before.
Very exciting. Well, thank you for sharing all those updates with us. I'm sure the BosBabes fanatics fully enjoyed. You guys are now listening to Mrs. Chelsea Barnes. You have been hearing her update you guys in the last year of her life. Please continue to follow her on Instagram. She has a lot of good things going on. Obviously, follow me at Brittany Baldi on my Instagram and at the BosBabes on Instagram. I've been lightly throwing out there, I think towards the end of the year, speaking of always being on the move, like Chelsea is speaking about, I think I'm going to lightly rebrand the name of this podcast. So I'll give you guys the first clue here. I've been kind of throwing some names out there, and I'll ask Chelsea. I don't know if you like the name. I think I came up with the name Life with a Baseball Wife, a lifestyle sports podcast, or On Air with Brittany Baldi, a lifestyle sports podcast. Some people threw out other names. Basebaldi, which is kind of a play on words for my shortened version of my last name. So I'm going to kind of like rebrand after I get married, just for the simple fact that like maturity level, and I'm not really strictly Boston based anymore. And there's only one of me because I don't have a co-host anymore. So I appreciate you guys listening to this podcast. I might be doing some rebranding at the end of the year. And I like to be on the move like Chelsea. Before we wrap up, positive pop, girl. Hit us with your positive pop, whether it's a song or a mantra. How do you manifest?
Okay. I got to think on the spot here. So speaking of manifesting and like a side hustle, I think a good quote is, well, not really a quote, but someone once told me, if you think you don't, or like, if someone says, sorry, I don't have time for a side hustle, it's like, that's the whole point. You have to make time for the side hustle so that you can side hustle. And if you manifest your side hustle because it's something you're passionate about and you love it, then hopefully that could turn into your main hustle. And then you got to do what you love. And if you really do what you love, you're not going to work a day in your life. So that's my best advice.
That is some beautiful positive pop. And Ryan and I actually talk about that all the time. That's one of our favorite things. Is I was always told when I was younger, stick with your degree. I have my degree and I use it in other ways, but my dad used to always be up my butt, like get a 9 to 5, do this, do that. And I always used to have a bunch of random jobs. And now I'm at that point where everything that I did back in the day led me to where I'm at now, kind of as Chelsea is mentioning, and manifest, do what you need to do. And at the beginning, you might not be making any money. You might even be doing it for free. But if you're passionate about it, it doesn't feel like work. And as long as you're able to pay those bills, you could potentially turn that side hustle into your full-time job, which Chelsea is working on now.
Yeah.
I'm going to wrap up the show. First off, Chelsea, thank you so much for joining me today. BosBabes Fanatics, thank you so much for listening. We're going to be dropping new episodes all spring, all summer. Chelsea, we will 100% be having you on here again because you are always fantastic.
Thank you for having me. It's so good to catch up.
Yes, it was. And that's the beauty of it too. It's like I'm getting to catch up with you while also recording at the same time.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Let me know when you're in Boston. I'll be there.
I will.